in the last stream, we were working on setting up this quadrant of automation right here, allowing us to automatically produce these regular mechanical crystals. Between streams, I have made a few tweaks to this setup, mostly just in where I've put speed upgrades. So our energized smelter here has 4 speed upgrades and 4 energy upgrades. Our enrichment chamber also has 2 speed and 2 energy upgrades, and then each of these metallurgic infusers also have 1 speed and 1 energy upgrade. I've not made any more speed and energy upgrades since the end of the last stream. I've just redistributed the ones that we made previously to make this whole system function a little bit faster, because right now our bottleneck is definitely how fast we can get steel. As you can see, we've backed up on Invar, and over here we've also backed up on bronze rods, and over here we've got a bunch of basic mechanical essence. So it really is the steel that's slowing us down, but in the top left there, we do have over 5 million EMC, and so we are in fact slowly but surely still gaining EMC, which is very good to see. Now, one of the things that we did right at the end of the last stream that I'm not particularly proud of is we set up this shaft right here, which takes some of the kinetic energy from our windmill bearing, pulls it along and up into our mechanical mixer. And it's working, it's doing the job just fine, but this area down here is starting to look unbelievably janky. Not only do we have this abomination of cogwheels to turn the painfully slow speed of the windmill into something usable by the encased fan and the mechanical mixer, but we also now have this horrible shaft running through the base as well. And so I think the first thing that I would like to work on in today's stream is looking at replacing basically all of this with something much more compact and much more efficient. So the first step is going to be to replace the windmill here. We could keep this, but the electric motor from Create Crafts and Additions, which is an add-on mod for Create, allows us to very easily convert redstone flux, so the power that we're generating with our magmatic dynamos, into Create energy, meaning that going forward we can just place down an electric motor onto something like this cogwheel here and then hook that up to the same power that we're hooking everything else up, at which point it will just start spinning at whatever speed we tell it to spin at. Of course, the higher the speed you set it to, the more power it's going to use. But the electric motors here are super flexible and very small, so we can make a nice, tidy, and compact setup. So in order to get the electric motors here, we are going to have to step into the world of mechanical crafting from Create. We do also need to use mechanical crafting if we're going to make the crushing wheels, which I've kind of been holding off on for a little while now because this recipe also requires mechanical crafting. The way this works is you make 1 mechanical crafter per ingredient slot in this kind of crafting grid here, and it does tell you quite handily how many mechanical crafters you're going to need for any given craft. Here, for the crushing wheels, we need 21. The electric motor requires 12, and so I think we'll shoot for 21 so we can make the crushing wheels, which, as we saw before, could be used in the future to make our redstone production much more efficient. But in order to make the mechanical crafters here, thankfully they're not too difficult, but there is one thing we're currently missing, and that is nether quartz. In order to make these polished rose quartz, we need nether quartz, and nether quartz we get via the use of an encased fan. We do it by washing soul sand. So the way this works is we take a bucket of water, which we can grab from our unlimited source over here, and we place that water down in front of the encased fan. Now, we are going to move this encased fan because I'm hoping that by the end of today's stream, we'll be able to replace down our blessed earth, but with a vector plates instead of the encased fan, moving the mobs over to the spikes. So we'll probably move this fan temporarily and set it up to allow us to wash for nether quartz. And in order to make that happen, we do need some soul sand, which we have the ability to grab from our transmutation table, and we could also benefit from a depot. The depot here isn't necessarily required, but it is going to make our lives just that little bit easier. And thankfully, it's not too difficult to make. It does require an andesite alloy, and in fact, what I might do real quick is grab a bunch more andesite alloy and try and make a bunch of andesite casing, because we are going to need a lot of both of these in today's stream, and having that taken care of right out of the gate is going to make our lives a whole heck of a lot easier. Alright, so I've got a fair bit more in the way of andesite alloy here, and I've placed down 32 logs, stripped every single one of them, apart from apparently that one. There we go. And then we can just go ahead and ultimine all of those up, and now we have 31 andesite casing ready should we need it in today's stream. And speaking of which, let's see if we can't get this nether quartz. So for the depot, we need 1 casing and 1 andesite alloy. It's a super easy recipe, 1 and 2. And the idea here is that with the washing, the way the washing works is you place down whatever it is you want to wash in front of an encased fan that is blowing through water. And if we look at the recipe here, you'll see it kind of gives us an illustration of what we put in and what we get out. Now, you don't necessarily need the depot, but the depot is useful in that you can just place the soul sand onto the depot, and then the fan won't be able to push it further away like it would normally do. So we'll place the depot here inside of the mob farm. And then what we'll do is we're going to put the water down on top of the fan, and we're going to have it flow forward. And for now, I'm quite happy for the water to just flow down into the void. That's completely fine. So now you'll see that the particles coming off of the fan have changed. So no longer are they white, they're now blue, showing that this is set to washing mode. And now anything that we put on the depot here should, in theory, get washed. So if we right-click a stack of soul sand, which apparently we cannot do through the glass here, let's put it on like that and step out. That should slowly but surely transform the soul sand into nether quartz. And there we go. A little bit of time later, we can right-click again, and we've got 30 nether quartz and 1 golden nugget. Very nice indeed. The gold nugget, not really necessary, but the nether quartz is needed because now we should be able to make 21 of these mechanical crafters. So each one of these requires a crafting table. That is going to be by far the easiest part of the entire craft here. Let's get some planks. Let's do something like this. 16 is, to my count, more than 7, so that should be more than enough. And then after that, it gets a little trickier. We need 7 brass casing, which is made in the same way as the andesite casing, but this time instead of right-clicking with andesite alloy, we right-click with brass ingots. Brass is another alloy that we can make in the induction smelter, this time using copper and zinc. So over in this metal crafting table, between streams, I did get the ingredients ready to make another induction smelter, and we can go and add that to our line of universal machines that we can use whenever we need to craft something, such as right now, we can place that right down, and then we need some copper, which we have a large amount of, and we also need some zinc, which I think we've yet to use. So let's quickly grab some, smelt it in our new and very fast advanced smelting factory, and then we can place all of that zinc in with the copper, and that's going to make us a bunch of brass. While we wait for that to smelt down, we then also need to get ourselves 7 electron tubes. The 7 electron tubes are made with 7 iron plates and 7 polished quartz. The polished quartz is made by using sandpaper on rose quartz, and the rose quartz is where that nether quartz comes into play. So let's get some redstone. Let's craft that redstone up with our nether quartz. We need 7 of these. Perfect. In order to make the sandpaper, I believe that we just need sand and paper. Pretty simple stuff. We do have some gravel, and we do have the crusher. I do think we might need more than 1 piece of sandpaper, so let's put another gravel in there just to get a second piece of sand. And then this is finally where the sawdust that we got many episodes ago can finally shine, because we can do something like this and very easily get 2 stacks of paper, at which point we can grab the sand, craft it with that paper, and we get sandpaper. So now what we want to do is we want to place the sandpaper, I believe, into our offhand, hold the rose quartz in our main hand, and then hold down right click, and that's going to use the sandpaper to polish the rose quartz into polished rose quartz. The sandpaper does have a durability. It can do 8 polished rose quartz here, which is why we got enough sand to make a second one. And there we go, we got 10 polished rose quartz. Over in here, we've got more than enough brass ready to go. And so now all we need to do is, once again, get down some oak logs. We'll do the whole 32 again. I'll get a bunch of brass casing just in case we need more later on down the line. We can strip every single one of these logs and then right-click every single one with an ingot of brass, at which point, chat, we should be basically good to go on the 21 mechanical crafters. So there we go, there is 32 brass casing. Over here, do we have what it takes? Oh, of course, we need the iron plates as well. That is fine. We need 7 iron plates. We can then craft 7 electron tubes, although, as I mentioned earlier, we should definitely just go ahead and craft 10 of these so that we have them for later on in the stream. So let's get 2 more, 1 and 2. And from there, we should be able to craft 21 of these. Don't want to go over because I do want to keep these electron tubes for later on in the stream. And then now we just need to place these down. So they do require rotational energy. And so we're probably going to be best suited placing them down somewhere around here. And if we're going to make the crushing wheels, we need them down in this orientation. And if we're going to make the electric motor, we need them down like this. Thankfully, this pattern here fits into this pattern here. And so if we set them up like this to make the crushing wheels, we can then also use the same set of mechanical crafters to also make the electric motor. So we need to basically set up a 5x5 of mechanical crafters with the corners missing. Okay, so the positioning of this might look super awkward right now, but my thought process is that this is kind of centered in the middle of the platform, and very soon we're going to be getting rid of both this shaft and this windmill. And so once we do get rid of both of those, I think that this wall of crafters, which we are probably going to leave here for any future mechanical crafting that we want to do, is going to look just fine. So in order for this to work, we need to do a couple of things. The first thing we need to do is we need to get rotational power to the mechanical crafters. The easiest way for us to do that is going to be to pull from one of these cogwheels that we already have down. And so if we check our system, do we have 2 more small cogwheels ready to go? The answer to that is no. However, we can make 2 more small cogwheels very easily. And then if we just put these down, let's say here and here, that is going to become overstressed straight away. And it's quite possible, actually, that this might not work, because right here, you'll see that it says the kinetic stress impact is 128 stress units, and I think that's actually 128 stress units per mechanical crafter, which makes this incredibly expensive. We can test that, because if we disconnect this here, it still doesn't work, and the reason it still doesn't work is because it's 128 per mechanical crafter, right? So what we are definitely going to want to do then, in that case, is potentially try connecting elsewhere. Also, real quick, I'm going to turn the sounds of the ProjectE charge and uncharge down just a little bit. They're a little loud. There we go. Make those a bit quieter, so when we fly and stop flying, it doesn't destroy my ears. If we put them here and here, that's going to be substantially slower, but they can work. Unlike the mechanical mixer upstairs that needs to be a certain speed in order to work, the mechanical crafters can work at any speed. They will just be very, 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 very slow. So obviously the reason this is overstressed currently is because this is trying to use 256, and the one upstairs here is also trying to use 256, and we only have 512, and so all of these are making it overstressed. That's fine. We can temporarily remove one of these shafts. That's going to bring it all online, and now we can actually do some mechanical crafting. In fact, I'm going to go ahead and get rid of this in its entirety, because hopefully somewhat soon we're going to replace this with the alternator, and I don't see us running out of 5 million EMC in that time. So let me quickly clear out my inventory just a little bit, and let's get a regular Minecraft chest. In fact, no, you know what? Let's do a barrel, because we are going to want to put this, I think, underneath one of the corners. So I'm going to put this right here. Yeah, we'll put it there like that. So what you want to do here is you want to make sure that all of the arrows here are pointing to this barrel. They all need to connect, and they all need to go to this barrel. So right now, these 3 arrows go to the barrel. That's fine. Ideally, I think we all want them to coalesce in one spot and then go to the barrel. So I think we want to right-click to send these items this way, and then right-click at this a few times to send it that way. Then we just want to keep right-clicking until all of these point together. Like this. This is fine, because all of the items here are going to come down, go across, and end up here. All of the items in this lane are going to come down, end up here. The same is true in the middle. They'll go down here, down, and here, and then down, and here. And so all of the items in the craft will end up in this one spot, at which point, if we put the recipe in correctly, they should just craft together and form what it is we're trying to make. So the easiest way to test this is going to be to make the crushing wheels, because the crushing wheels are simply made with a bunch of andesite alloy, 4 planks, and 1 stone. So if we quickly grab 1 stone, I think it is a normal stone, not a cobblestone, and if we also grab at least 1 log that we can craft into 4 planks, we can do 1, 2, 3, 4 with the stone in the middle, and then we can fill in the rest of these slots here with andesite alloy. Once all of those are filled in, the craft should, I think, just begin going. And there it is. You'll see they're moving very slowly. The more stress units you have, the faster you can make this go, of course. But right now we're only using 2 per mechanical crafter, and so it is going to be very, very slow, but you can see the items moving down. They clump together as they move, and every single one of these is going to coalesce on that bottom left slot right there. And then we should, in 3 to 4 days' time, receive 2 crushing wheels inside of this barrel. There they are. They're all together. And then slowly but surely, the final stage of the craft occurs here as they all move together as one into the barrel. And just like that, boom. We have the wheels, and the wheels should get placed into the barrel. Nice. So that's the crushing wheels. We'll come back to those at some point in the future. We don't actually need them just yet. What we actually want is this, the electric motor. So the electric motor is a little bit more expensive, but shouldn't be too difficult. And as I mentioned before, this pattern here can be placed into this here. So it's 3, 5, 3, 1. We can just ignore these crafters here and put the items in that we need, and the recipe should work just fine. So we need 6 gold plates. That is not going to be a problem for us. We'll take those right away here, and we'll put those into their respective slots. I think it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I then did see an andesite alloy. I did indeed. We'll put that right at the top there. And then we also need an iron rod, which I assume is just 2 iron. It is. We'll stick that in the middle. We also need a capacitor, which is a zinc plate, a copper plate, and a redstone torch, along with 3 copper spools. These are made with 4 copper wire and an empty spool. The empty spool is 2 iron plates and an iron nugget. So we'll take 2 of those, and then if we head back up here, we can craft those 2 iron plates together with an iron nugget. That gets us the spool. In terms of the copper wire, this can only be made through the rolling mill. Interesting. Okay, so the rolling mill is actually kind of fine. The only thing we're missing, I think, is 2 iron plates. So let's once again do something like this. Can we get a rolling mill? We totally can. And then can we... Oh, hello, my friend. We got a wandering trader. Are you trading anything worthwhile? He's got sugar. He actually has sugar. That is kind of fantastic. And we do have emeralds available down here. I didn't even think about the fact that a wandering trader could be the way that we get sugar. We can take one of those, and because it has an EMC value, we can just chuck it in here, and chat, we have got infinite sugar at our disposal. We're not too far away from being able to get it anyway, because as soon as we make the first improved mechanical essence, we can then get sugar by clicking this quest right here. But that's quite useful, actually. Is there anything else that we want from this guy? The sleep charm would be useful if we were sleeping, but I don't really think we are sleeping. I might take spruce saplings from him, because the spruce saplings could be useful. And you know what? I'll take a pumpkin as well, just in case. But I would like to maybe replace the standard oak wood that we have here at some point in the near future. And I'm not going to lie, chat. I kind of don't want to have to listen to this guy saying, ha ha, all day long, so... Anyway, now that we have the rolling mill, this needs to go down somewhere that we have rotational energy, like that. That's going to use 1,000 stress units, eh? Okay, so that's far too fast. What about... I assume this is going to be far too slow. 16 stress units? Let me take some copper and just see how slow that is. If it's unbearably slow, we can move it to somewhere a little faster. But I think we just drop the copper into the top, like so. And then that should slowly but surely transform that copper into... Oh, a copper rod? I don't want a copper rod. I want... Oh, I need to drop a copper sheet in there, and that gets me 2 copper wires. I see. So we need 3 copper spools, which is 12 copper wire, which means 6 copper plates. That is fine. We can take 6 copper plates, drop those in the top, like so. For now, I'm just going to throw these copper rods off the end. I don't think we're going to need those anytime soon, and we can always get more should we need them. This is fairly slow. It probably actually would have just been faster for us to hand crank it. But once we have all of those, chat, I think we're pretty much good to go. I guess while we wait for that, let's go make the alternator with 1 redstone and 1 stick. That gets us a redstone torch, of course. We then needed, I think it was both a copper and iron plate. Oh, a copper and zinc plate, actually. So do we have some zinc left over in here? We totally do. Let's go and do something like this. Get ourselves a... Oh, we can't make a zinc plate like that. Interesting. Okay, so we'll get a copper plate, and then we're going to have to hijack the multi-servo press in order to make our zinc plate. Never mind, we can't use the multi-servo press here to make zinc, and that's because the only zinc plate... There's no zinc plate, there's only the zinc sheet which is from create, so we have to use either the metal press or the mechanical press to do that. That's fine. We have a mechanical press. If we get another depot here, we can replace this basin with a depot, like so. And then if we place just one zinc on top, like that, we can then right-click this, and that should kaplunk our zinc into a zinc sheet. Very nice indeed. Let's get the capacitor. Fantastic. Our inventory is getting a little full. I probably don't need to carry my chisel around with me at all times. And then down here, we should have all of our copper wire. We do indeed. Fantastic. Let's craft all of that up into 3 copper spools. And with that, chat, we should have, I think, everything that we need in order to make the electric motor. So 1, 2, 3 with the capacitor at the bottom, like so. Again, once you've done your first recipe, if you want to do a second recipe in the mechanical crafting wall, you do have to apply a redstone signal to the wall. And so if we just get a regular Minecraft button, what we can do is we can place that down really anywhere around here, right-click it, and there we go. This next craft is now going to start. And once again, very slowly, but very surely, we should see all of these items make their way down to that bottom left corner. This is a little inefficient because I think that the crafter does try and start from here, so it's going to take a second before the crafter gets to our items. It'll get to this one first. Yeah, there it is. But these ones won't start moving until this one gets here. So it would have been faster if we took the mechanical crafters we weren't using off of the wall. But for the most part, this is fine, and it is going to slowly but surely get us an electric motor. Okay, so I messed up the recipe somewhere because all of the items just popped off of the wall. And that's because it's brass sheets, not gold sheets, Isaac, you fool. Okay, that is my bad. Let's get everything back down on here, including the andesite alloy at the top and the iron rod in the middle. But the problem is that we need brass sheets, which I'm assuming, again, yeah, can't be done with the engineer's hammer. And that's just because the immersive engineering mod doesn't have a brass plate. And so we are going to have to do that on here. Let's do a few kaplunks. We need to do 6 of these kaplunks to get 6 brass sheets, at which point we can try that one more time, this time though, with the correct recipe. And there we go, we have an electric motor. Nice. So now what we should be able to do is kind of get rid of all of this and replace it with the electric motor. We do want to rotate that to point upwards like this, and then, not like this, so the shafts connect. And then at the bottom, it's going to be easier if we kind of fly just here. But at the bottom, there's a number that we can use to set the rotational speed. And that might actually make it so we don't need the rotational speed controller now that I think about it. Let's set this to 256, which is what we had before. And I think that actually might be the highest. Oh, no, wait. Okay, so I'm lying here. 256 is the amount of stress units that we want the mechanical mixer to use, not the speed that we want the shaft to be rotating at. Let's T64 and see how that goes. Now, in order for this to work, we do need to actually hook it up to power, and for that, we are going to need at least 1 or 2 more of these basic universal cables. Let's take those, and let's see if we can't hook the alternator right here up to our nearest power supply, which is going to be right about here. So that starts spinning, and this is using 256. Nice. Okay, so this is the perfect speed for this to be at. Not necessarily, to be fair. We could make this faster. We can go all the way up to making this go at 256. You can't quite see what I'm doing there, but all you have to do is hover over. If I break this, you just hover over the number. As soon as you can see the number, you can use the scroll wheel to go down or up. If you go up, it gets bigger. If you go down, it gets smaller. If we set that to its max amount, this is going to use a lot more stress units. Again, we do need to wait for something to come in there, and that something is power. If we do this, that's going to make that substantially faster. It is using 1,024 stress units, but that's fine because down here, this is producing 8,192 stress units and consuming 240 redstone flux per tick. Of course, we do not need to use anywhere near that much power because, of course, our bottleneck here is not the mechanical mixer. The bottleneck is how fast the steel gears can come in. And so for us, we're just going to, once again, grab our configurator in wrench mode, get rid of this. We'll set that back down to 64, which is where it was a minute ago. We can reconnect that back up like so, and we can replace this down like that. Nice. That's a much tidier setup, a much more self-contained setup. And going forward, we can do the same thing. We can make more of those alternators. For example, we can make a second one and just throw it down right about here to power the mechanical crafter wall. And as I mentioned, now we should be able to basically tear down the entirety of this setup right here, because what we're going to do is we're going to get rid of the water at the top there. We're also going to get rid of the depot, and we're going to get rid of the fan. We'll probably end up putting the fan back down somewhere else, but basically now that we have access to sugar, what we should be able to do is get back down our blurst earth, but this time with vector plates on top to allow the mobs to be pushed much more quickly and easily to the spikes without the need for any create power whatsoever. Now, before we do that, before we get the mob farm back up and running, we do need to address this problem right here, the problem of all of this being full. And for that, we're going to pivot over into storage drawers. So right now we have one storage drawer, that's this one right here, but I would like to get a lot more storage drawers. Ideally, we want a slot for every item that we want to keep from the mob farm, which is going to be quite a few items. There are a few things in here that we don't need to keep. Obviously, we don't need all of these bows. We definitely don't need these saddles, I don't think. We might keep one of these in a chest somewhere, but we don't need a drawer for it. The same is true with the horse armor. We don't need that either. I kind of don't think we need the hearts of diamonds. These can be used to make picker rings, which I don't think are any use to us in this pack because we're not going to do any mining or any fighting. The same is true with the fishing rod. I don't really think we're going to need that. But a lot of the other stuff, you know, the rotten flesh, the coal, the iron, the copper, the slime balls, the gunpowder, all that kind of good stuff, we can definitely put into storage drawers. So what we're going to do here, instead of making a lot of these storage drawers, which do fine, but don't look great, instead what we can do is we can make some framed storage drawers. These ones here, they're from the Framed Compacting Drawers mod, and these allow us to basically make custom storage drawers. Now, up until now, we've just used this one storage drawer, which can hold one item, and it can hold 2,048 of that item. What we're going to do now instead is we're going to make a different kind of storage drawer. We're going to make a drawer that can hold 4 items, but instead of being able to hold 2,048 of one item, it's going to be able to hold 512 of 4 different items. The way that you would normally make this is with 4 chests, and then I believe it's just 4 chests in the corners like this with a plank in the middle. It is, and that gets you 4 2x2 drawers. Now, what we want to do, though, is we want to make the framed drawers, and these are made in the same way, but instead of using planks in the middle there, we use sticks. So we're going to do something like this, and we're going to make some 4x4 framed drawers. Now, again, by default, these don't look great. However, what we can do is we can customize these to look however we like. For example, let's say we grab some stone, and let's say we grab our chisel. What we can do here is we can pick a stone that we like. Let's say we go with this one right here, this large, smooth stone tile. We'll set connecting textures to on, although that might break actually. But the way this works is you place the drawer into your crafting grid, and then depending on where you place these items depends on how the final texture will look. Now, this one looks horrible. The reason it looks horrible is because I chose connecting textures. It's a weird little interaction with these two mods, but if I turn connecting textures off, I can pick this back up. We can do the same thing again. Thankfully, you can retexture a drawer you've done before. Oh, never mind. This just doesn't work, eh? Interesting. So you can't use, I think, in that case, any of the chiseled resources. Like, you can't use any of the chiseled blocks to make the drawer. But what we could do is we could take smooth stone. And if we put the smooth stone in, like this, we get a drawer that looks a lot more normal, but with a custom color to it, which is pretty nifty. We could also take this one step further. Let's say we wanted to have a drawer that was smooth stone with a plank on the front. We could do something like this. And each one of these 3 slots, by the way, corresponds to a different section of the drawer. So the bottom one here is the front panel. So whatever you put here is what the front panels are going to look like. The second one is what the faces around the outside that are not the front panel are going to look like. And then this one at the end here is the trim. So you can do this, and it's just the outer trim that looks like wood. I do not think this looks particularly good, but that is what that does, and that's how that works. And so let's take a look at what blocks we have, and let's see if we can't make a drawer that is somewhat nice to look at. All right, so after a little bit of design tinkering, this is the drawer that I've decided to go with. It's not the most outlandish design possible, but it's a fairly nice one. I quite like the way it looks. I also quite like the way it looks with the items in it, and it's also fairly cheap. What we've done is we've taken smooth stone, and we've put that here. We've taken wool, and we've put that here, and then we put the drawer right here. We've not gone for a trim. We could have done a trim if we wanted to, but you don't have to put a block there. And yeah, that's the drawer that we have gone with. We tinkered around with a couple of options, including potentially using brass casing, this stuff here, and did test a few drawers out like this, but I just didn't really like the look of it, and it would have been a lot more expensive than just making the one with stone and wool. And so we're going to drop these down, but before we do, we could also do with getting ourselves a drawer controller. This is going to allow us to pump items into all of the drawers without having pipes on all of the drawers. Thankfully, it's super easy to make. It's 5 stone, 1 diamond, 2 redstone comparators, and 1 regular storage drawer. The regular storage drawer is going to be super easy for us to make. We can just make the same one we did for the sawdust. And then as far as the drawer controller goes, we could actually make a frame drawer controller. And we might do that because that's going to allow us to customize the look of our drawer controller, just like we've done with the rest of our storage drawers. But there are 2 comparators. We're just missing a little bit of stone. Thankfully, we smelted a ton of stone up at the start of the series, so we'll take 2 of those, and boom, there's our drawer controller. If we surround that with sticks, we can place this in here. We can do the exact same thing with the wool and with the smooth stone to get a drawer controller that also matches the rest of the aesthetic. So I think I'm going to put this right about here, and then we can place our framed drawers around connected to this drawer controller, like this. And the idea with the drawer controller is that if we already have a drawer that has an item in it, like this one here is going to have redstone in it, and by default, again, it can hold up to 512 redstone. What we can then do is, instead of having to put the redstone directly into the drawer by right-clicking up here, instead, what we can do, again, so long as there's one already in there, is we can just right-click on the drawer controller, and if you double right-click, it's going to take all of the items from your inventory that have a drawer and place them in there. So again, if we do, let's say, 1 redstone and 1 diamond, we can do this, and then if we wanted to dump our inventory, we could come over, double right-click, and you'll see it took both the redstone and the diamond and put them into their respective drawers. Even nicer than that, if we get a bunch of pretty pipes here, what we can do is we can extract from this chest right here, run a pipe up and around and into the drawer controller. One other thing that we could definitely do with getting is the drawer key. This guy right here is fairly easy to make. It's 2 gold with a gold nugget. We did get a gold nugget earlier from washing that soul sand. The only other thing we need is an upgrade template. The upgrade template requires yet another basic drawer. That's fine. And then I think it is just that surrounded by sticks. It is indeed. That gets you 4 upgrade templates, and boom, we get a drawer key. The idea with the drawer key is that you can lock the drawers by right-clicking them. You'll know it's locked when it has the little key icon at the top there. And once these are locked, if you put an item in, it will lock the drawer to that item, and then even if you take all of that item out, it's still locked to that item. So now, even though there's technically no redstone in there, if I double right click, it will still put the redstone in, and basically it's not going to allow random bits of junk to end up in the drawer slot that we intended for redstone, which is very useful. And so real quick, I'm going to go ahead and move all of the items we want to keep out of here into their own storage drawers, and then we can look at running pretty pipes from here round up to the drawer controller to allow us to automatically start extracting all of this stuff. Okay, so I've dedicated drawers to, I think, almost everything that we want to keep. Turns out a lot of the stuff we don't really want to keep. The only thing that I haven't given a drawer that we are going to keep is the ingots. And the reason for that is that we probably want to be sending these ingots to compacting drawers and not just to regular drawers. Compacting drawers are pretty straightforward. Again, we can make these guys right here, the framed compacting drawers, but they require the initial compacting drawers to work. The compacting drawers are super useful because they make the ingots available in ingot form, nugget form, and block form all at once, which means from inside of this terminal right here, we're going to see all of our iron, for example, in block form, nugget form, and ingot form. So if ever we need to do a recipe that requires either blocks or nuggets, it will just pull the nugget or the block from the drawer as opposed to the ingot, meaning that we can kind of avoid that stage of crafting. The compacting drawers themselves, super easy. Again, any drawer at all can go in the middle with 2 pistons, 5 stone, and 1 iron. All right, so there are 3 framed compacting drawers. Let's do this and this. We'll make them look the same as the other compacting drawers. And we'll probably end up moving these in the future because my plan for the future is to kind of centralize all of our ore processing. I mentioned this to the Twitch chat a little earlier, but right now we have iron being produced over here and being smelted over here, And then we also have iron being produced and smelted over here. Having iron be produced in two separate locations is just a little bit wasteful. It's not necessary. And so I think the plan for the longer term is going to be to produce basically all of the resources that we need in one centralized location, and then use something like Pretty Pipes to distribute all of those resources to their final destinations. So we can have a retrieval filter on a Pretty Pipe, and that's going to pull any iron that we need from, for example, our storage drawers or from the iron compacting drawer round and into the metallurgic infuser and the induction smelter and the multi-servo press, as opposed to having to put down a basic EMC link and a smelter every time we want to have more iron being made. I think that's going to be the plan in the long term, and to make that happen, we're probably going to want to move these compacting drawers just a little bit, but for the time being, we'll put down one here, here, and here, and of course, we'll grab our key and make sure to lock all three of those. And the reason I've done 3 for now is because we are only getting, I think, 3 ingots from our farm. We're getting copper, we're getting gold, and we're getting iron. And now, unlike the other drawers, if we put iron in here, you'll see the iron is available in block and nugget form. The copper, same deal, and the gold, same deal. Pretty cool stuff. These are also much larger in size. The compacting drawer can hold 128 stacks per drawer, and that's 128 stacks of blocks. So it holds 128 stacks of iron blocks, which is a ton of iron, way more than these smaller drawers can hold. Everything else in here, I think, can be trashed. We don't need to keep the fish. We've got food. I'll take the carrot because I think we might need that, but all future carrots are probably not going to be needed. The same is true for the potato that we had in here. The horse armor can go, the trident can go, all of the bows can go, the hearts of diamonds can go, and the bones here can actually go directly back into our EMC link. So we can just put an EMC link down and pipe the bones directly into there. So let's see if we can get a few pretty pipes here, as well as, I think, a high extraction module. The higher tier the extraction module you get, the faster it can pull out. I don't think it actually increases the speed of the items moving through the pipes, but it does mean you can pull out more than one item at a time. So we'll shoot for one of those. In fact, let's have a look. Extraction. I think we have what it takes to make this. We do indeed. Fantastic. And then upgrading it is just iron, gold, and diamond, actually. So we'll take this. We'll take some iron. We'll take some gold. We'll take 1 diamond. And that should be everything to make the tier 2 and the tier 3 extraction module. Nice. Now we just need enough pipes to actually run from the chest round to the draw controller. Now, before we put these pipes down, I would also like to get that nullifier from before. The nullifier is 4 tin, 2 glass, 1 redstone, 1 lava bucket, and 1 redstone server. Now, we don't actually have any buckets of lava left over. However, we do, of course, have lava down here, and so I can probably just extract that from our magma crucible. The redstone server is super easy. It's 1 iron and 2 redstone, something like this. And I think, chat, that's pretty much everything. We just grab 4 tin, drop that in here, and boom, we have the nullifier. So what we're going to do here is we're going to have a pipe over here that's going to extract from the diamond chest. We're then going to have the nullifier down somewhere fairly close by. Let me go and put a hole in the floor where the controller is, just so we know where to put this stuff. So we're going to run this down like this, and we'll go all the way down to the lower platform here. And then we can put down the nullifier, let's say right about here. And the idea is that we're going to, actually, maybe not here, actually, now that I think about it. But the idea is that we're going to send certain items through to the nullifier to be deleted. And we're going to use the filter module to do that. So we'll do something like this. We'll do something like this. And then we'll also do something like this. And basically, if we put a filter in here, this, the pretty pipes will try and send items to the closest inventory first. So the pretty pipe will try and send everything to the nullifier, but we're going to put down a filter in this pipe here that's going to limit what can go into the nullifier. If we add all of the things we don't want, like the bows and the horse armor and the hearts of diamonds, to that filter, they will all take the shortest path from here directly into the nullifier and be deleted. Everything else will go directly all the way up through and into the draw controller. Another thing that we do want to put down is the EMC link. So we don't have a spare EMC link. That is fine. We can make more of these fairly easily. 2 Invar plates we can do. We've got a ton of Invar lying around. And of course, we have our engineer's hammer, which I keep forgetting doesn't work for Invar. So let's instead just quickly throw those in there. While we wait for those to finish, we do have all of the covalence dusts. We need 2 of each tier, along with, again, a standard Minecraft barrel. Fantastic. Let's go take those 2 plates. Good stuff. That's going to get us another EMC link. The idea with the EMC link is mostly that it's going to take the bones. So we can put the EMC link down, probably just like right about here, and nothing is going to go in there that's not EMCable. Items might bounce off, so they might try and go in there, and then when they can't, they might keep going around past the nullifier. We could, again, put a filter down if we wanted them to not bounce, but I don't think the bouncing is a problem. It's going to slow the items down slightly, but I think that's going to be fine. The mob drops are not coming in super fast. So we do have a filter module because we made one last episode and we didn't need it. In fact, we have 2 of them, which is nice. But I think we're going to go ahead and upgrade this to a higher tier of filter module, which shouldn't be too difficult. Again, it's just iron to make it to tier 2, and then iron and gold to make it up to tier 3. Iron bars we have and gold we have, so let's upgrade this. We're missing 1 iron ingot. Our 1 iron ingot, I guess, is over in here. So let's do this to make it tier 2, and then we'll do the same again to make it into tier 3. And of course, you can put more than 1 filter into a pipe. So this filter, if we add it here, gives us a ton of slots. But if we wanted to, if this wasn't enough slots, we could put 2 more of these in to get triple the number of slots. We're of course going to set this to nullifier, and we're going to set this to allowed. So we're telling the pipe what items are allowed through. And now we actually just need to clear our inventory a little bit and start moving those items onto the filter. So let me get rid of some of the stuff that we have in our inventory here and try and free up just a bit more space. I did, by the way, craft up 2 iron to gold chest upgrades to give us a bit more space in here so that we're not constantly running out of space all of the time. But let's go and let's start adding the things that we don't want to the filter. The good news is, by the way, I have tested this, and just adding any bow will delete all bows. So it's not like we have to specify the damage of the bow. Just having a bow in there will delete all bows. All bows will make that way in there, so that's fine. The golden apple we're keeping, the rotten flesh we are keeping, the redstone we're keeping, the spider eye we're keeping, the fish we are not keeping, coal we are keeping, the tridents we're not going to keep, the arrows we are going to keep, the potions of healing and the saddles we're not going to keep. Let's go and add those to this filter here. So we'll do this, we'll do this, we'll do this, and we'll do this. Fantastic. What else are we not keeping? We're keeping the coal, we're keeping the diamonds, emeralds, lapis, iron, copper, gold. We're not keeping sticks. We are keeping gunpowder, slime, ink sacs. Bones are going to go to the EMC link. That's fine. Whatever this glimmering wheeled Pathfinder map, that can go. The glass bottles can go. Both types of horse armor can go. And the heart of diamond can go. And the dirt can also go. I think everything else has a place to go already. So let's go into here and let's put all of these in so they all have a place to go. And at that point, I think we're basically good to go. Let's not forget the stick, and let's not forget the empty bottles. I didn't mean to put that in twice, but that's fine. So that should be good, and you can just put the items in like that, and they'll get deleted, which is fantastic. That's what we want. So now, I think putting the extraction module onto there should get this going. But one thing that we can also do is we can now get the pipe pressurizer. The pipe pressurizer is something we looked at getting before, but we couldn't make because we didn't have sugar. Now that we have sugar, we should be able to get that pipe pressurizer and make this a lot faster. Before we do that, let's take a look here and see if this does work. If we set this to extract, it's going to start extracting certain items. Things like the gold apples, the rotten flesh, and the gunpowder should make their way directly up. They shouldn't go to the nullifier. They don't. Fantastic. And then let's see if... let's put the bows up here just to make sure they get taken first. There we go. I see a bow. We should hopefully see the bow go straight through into the nullifier. It does. Fantastic. That is super cool. So I'm going to take this out because I want to make the pipe pressurizer and see how much faster that is. So the pipe pressurizer requires 4 iron, 1 block of redstone, and 4 high-speed increase modules. So we need basically 4 of the blank modules, a ton of sugar, a bit of iron, some redstone, and some gold. That is fine. Sugar we can get in abundance now. We can just take a stack of sugarcane out of here and just craft that directly down into sugar. Fantastic. Over in here, do we have what it takes to get the 4 blank modules? We do. Once we have the 4 blank modules, let's see, can we make 4 of these? We definitely can. We've got a ton of redstone. So let's do 4 of you. Then can we upgrade those to tier 2? I assume we definitely can. We're just missing some iron. Again, we have a fair bit of it over in here. I'm not going to take it all just yet. We only need 12, I believe. And then that's going to get us 3 of those. Oh, no, that's my bad. I need 16, not 12. Fantastic. And then we just need the gold. Again, 16 is what we're after here. And again, we've got 1 in there. that is fine. Never mind, we got gold in there. Fantastic. I was going to smelt some more up, but it was not needed. And at that point, chat, I think we're basically good to go on the pipe pressurizer. So the pipe pressurizer, as we saw before, drastically increases item speed in the entire pipe network, requires FE or RF for each item transferred. So this is going to make all of our items move faster at the cost of a little bit of power, which I think is totally going to be worth it. We're going to take this and we're going to put it down connected to this pipeline over here. So let's say we put it here. That's fine. Nothing's going to go into this, by the way. It's just going to sit there like it is doing now. And then if we go and steal some steel dust and we drop that in over here, we should then be able to very easily make some more universal cable. And then with that, we should be able to hook that pipe pressurizer up to our main power line. Like that. Fantastic. So now this should be making everything faster. Let's try the same system again. We're going to put the high extraction module back in like this, but we should see, look at that. Things are moving so much quicker through the pipe network and they're getting up into here so much faster. So we will probably end up making another pipe pressurizer because that is also going to allow us to make this setup here so much quicker. Right now, whenever I request anything, like if I hit request here, it takes a second for items to move from the inventory round into this crafting grid, which is not ideal. But if we can get the pipe pressurizer down, like we've done here, those items are going to move almost instantaneously from the chests over into the crafting terminal. And of course, the idea here as well is that we can take some of the pretty pipes, if we have some left, we totally do. We can take some of the pretty pipes. Also, I should mention real quick, here, if you just click the button, it goes up by 1. If you hold Control and click the button, it goes up or down by 20. If you hold Shift, it goes up and down by a stack. So if you want 20, just hold Control, hit plus twice, and then request. But we can, of course, take those pipes and connect them up to the draw controller here. Of course, it's a little janky here because we've got this basic EMC link. We're going to move the EMC link. This one's currently providing cobblestone, which we don't necessarily need, at least not right here. And we are almost certainly going to move this entire system at some point fairly soon. But doing this gives, of course, this access to everything in the drawers, including the iron in nugget, block, and ingot form, which again is super useful because it means for recipes like this one, I don't have to first make the iron nuggets. The iron nuggets are always just available in nugget form, which is super useful. So this is working. Down here, how are we doing in here? This is almost empty. It does look like maybe only the bones. Oh, no, the bones are getting bounced back, which is interesting. I would have thought that the bones would just get dropped into here. Chat is right. The reason this is not working, it is working. You'll see the number here is going down, but the reason it's not working too fast is that our EMC link here is garbage. And the reason for that is that the EMC link can only process 1 item per second. So if we type in EMC link here, its limit, its import and export limit is 1 item per second. So we could do with a higher tier EMC link if we wanted to get rid of these faster. I don't think that matters too much because I think, you know, we can take these out manually. And I don't think we're going to get that many bones coming in at the same time, right? Once we get the farm up and running, it's not like we're going to have 64 skeletons all die at the same time and then all try and dump their stuff simultaneously, right? It's just not going to happen. Now, over here, I would assume, yeah, look at that. We filled up on coal. We got 512. And so the excess coal, thankfully, is just sitting down in here. It's not going anywhere. I did mean to add the fishing rod to the filter over here. These need to be deleted. So let's do that. And we should see that get just destroyed instantly, which is fantastic. And so there are a few things we can do here. We can make drawer upgrades to allow this drawer here to hold more than 512 of each item. So if we go to @storage drawers, these upgrades along the top here, starting with tier 1 and going all the way up to tier 5, allow you to increase the storage amount of those drawers by a certain amount. So the basic tier 1 upgrade here increases storage by 2 times the base value. So if I was to put one of these into this drawer here, every single slot would go from being able to hold 512 items to 1024. Whereas if I were to make this one here, the tier 5 upgrade, it will be able to hold whatever 32 times 512 is, which is 16,384 coal, which is very high. It's a lot. And these are not really too expensive. It does require emeralds, but we are getting emeralds from our mob farm. And so if we wanted to here, we could probably right out of the gate go ahead and do something like this, drop that onto our coal drawer, like that. And that's going to give this the ability to hold 16,384 coal. Of course, that same upgrade in a compacting drawer is going to have a massively different effect, because the compacting drawer here can hold 128 stacks by default, so 128 multiplied by 64. It can hold 8,192 blocks of iron, which if you multiply that by 9 is 73,772 iron that it can hold just by default. If you were to then multiply that by 32, this can hold 2.4 million iron if you put just one of these storage upgrade tier 5s into it, which is a crazy amount of iron for the compacting drawer. And the best thing is that you can put even more of, you can put even more of these upgrades in. You can have up to 7 of them in any one drawer. They don't stack their multiplication, so putting another one in doesn't multiply the 16,000 by 32, it just adds another 16,000. So putting a second one of these in would take this to about 32,000 items in total capacity, and then another one after that would take it to like 48, and so on and so forth. But still, very capable drawers that can go very high. And one other upgrade that we do definitely want to try and get as soon as possible is the Void upgrade. This Void upgrade can destroy excess items. So essentially, what we could have done instead is if we had not put this upgrade in, we could have placed a Void upgrade in, and then what would have happened is all of the coal from downstairs would have been taken, it would have been set to the drawer controller, but then because the drawer is full, it would have just deleted the excess coal, which is not what you want super early on, but what we could do now is we could put a Void upgrade in here, and whenever we get to more than 16,000 coal, any excess coal will be deleted, which is probably a good thing because it means the whole system is not going to get clogged up, and we're probably not going to need more than 16,000 coal at any point in the near future. So now that that's taken care of, we can get the mob farm back up and running. For that, we're going to need at least 8 vector plates. I believe we have 8 blurst earth in here. We do indeed. Let's request all 8 of those. And then the vector plates here are pretty easy to make. We need slime balls, we need sugar, and we need basalt, polished basalt, smooth basalt, or blank plates, or deep slate. Interesting. Normally the blank plates are the recipe that's required, but the blank plates are just made from black stone or deep slate. So black stone, I believe, is something that we can make. We can bulk haunt, is what Create calls it, but we can haunt some cobblestone to make basalt. So the way that this works is we are going to have to place down our encased fan temporarily, and we're going to need some soul sand along with a flint and steel. That should be fine. We have iron and we have flint, so getting a flint and steel not going to be a problem for us. Boom and boom. And essentially, this works in the same way as the washing did, but instead of having the fan blow through water, we instead have the fan blow through the blue flame that you get when you light soul sand. So let's request our depot, let's take our fan, and for what will hopefully be the last time, let's go ahead and break this. Let's put the fan down here. Of course, rotate that with our currently non-existent wrench, but I know we have it around here somewhere. Right-click that to face forward. Fantastic. We'll replace down the depot here. We'll place down some soul sand here, and if we hold shift, we will light that fire. Fantastic. And again, you'll see the particles change color. They're now a dark green, and if we were to grab some cobblestone out of our transmutation table, we could go ahead and right-click that onto the depot. Not like that. You want to right-click, not shift right-click. I'm trying not to get blown over into the spikes, but if we just do that, we can move out of the way, and slowly but surely, just like before, that is going to transform all of that cobblestone into blank stone, at which point we can just use that black stone here to make the vector plates. So sugar we have. We are going to need 2 batches of vector plates because we need at least 8, so we'll take 4 sugar. Actually, never mind, we've got 28 sugar on us, so that's fine. Slime we have up in our drawer over here, so I'll take 2 slime balls. Down here, this is going to be done any second now. Fantastic. Oh, there we go. We're going to take that and head on back up to our metal crafting table, at which point I think something like this with the slime balls and the sugar is going to work just fine. It totally is. Fantastic. Now, we can make these faster. There are higher tier vector plates here. The standard ones are not too bad if I place them down and we stand on them. This is how fast they move normally. However, we can take this further. The fast vector plates just require a little bit of gold and some more sugar. These are, you guessed it, a little faster than the previous vector plates. We can potentially take it one step further here. The extreme vector plates are pretty cheap. They just require some redstone and some more sugar. And then the ultra vector plates, unfortunately, are not craftable, but those are insanely fast. So what we can do here is we can, once again, get rid of this stuff over here. Let's get rid of the soul sand, no longer needed, and let's get rid of this. That's going to be gone for the final time. Again, we'll probably put this down again somewhere, but once we got rid of the windmill and whatnot. And then now we can just do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. And then once we're in here, we can place down our vector plates facing the wall like this. The mobs can still spawn on the vector plates. They don't block mobs from spawning. They don't really count as a block, so that's very nice indeed. And then we can just do something like this, and we should be good to go. So we should start to see mobs spawning again. And as those mobs spawn, they should be instantly moved, or almost instantly moved over to the spikes, just due to how fast the vector plates are. And then once they are killed, the mob drops will be dropped and moved over into the chest. Nice. And then automatically moved around via our Pretty Pipes network to their final destination. So it's possible we might have to check in on this every now and again to see if there are any new items that we need to add to the filter for the trash can, or potentially to the filter for the storage drawers if we want to keep them. But for the most part, this is working just fine. You'll see that potentially we're not extracting from the vacuumulator fast enough. We could upgrade our basic logistical transporter here. Much like all of the other pipes from a mechanism, there are multiple tiers of logistical transporter. Chat actually makes a very good point here that we can probably just get rid of the intermediary chest altogether. This guy here is almost certainly no longer needed. So if we go ahead and pick this up, we can just connect the pretty pipe directly to the vacuumulator. So we can get rid of this guy as well. That gets rid of that bottleneck, and then we can just put the pretty pipe down over like this, and then we can take our high extraction module, place that in here, and the same system that was working before is going to work directly out of the vacuumulator. Nice, I like it. Cool. And that gives us an extra diamond chest that we could potentially use up here for kind of overflow storage if we ran out of space on all of our other stuff. Now that we've done with that, I think the last thing that I'm probably going to do here today, chat, is tear down this create monstrosity, because that is kind of everything that I wanted to do in today's stream. I'll make sure to keep my time in a bottle on me. But let's go ahead and start tearing this down. It's going to be a lot easier if we get our wrench, which I keep putting away accidentally, don't mean to. But if we take the old create wrench here, we should just be able to shift right click most of what is down here, and it's going to go straight away into our inventory. The only thing we can't do is obviously like stone tiles like this. I should make sure that I have some Aeternalis fuel on me, just in case my creative flight conks out on me. I don't want to lose that whilst over the void. Whenever you shift right click, by the way, with the wrench, you don't have to pick up the item. It automatically gets teleported to your inventory, which is very nice indeed. And there we go, chat. Just like that. It's as if the monstrosity from before never occurred. You love to see it. And as I mentioned before, at some point, we could look at getting an electric motor and using that right about here to power this guy. We might end up moving the barrel over to here and moving the cog over to here just because this side is closer to power. Speaking of power, one thing I will do before we ramp up today is look at getting some more integral components, because I think we can probably make 9 of these fairly easily. We've got a ton of these basic mechanical essences, and in fact, I think we have even more of them in here. We do, so I probably shouldn't have taken those. But either way, we also have a bunch of Invar backing up over here, so we can steal that. And we probably have even more backing up, yeah, in here. Fantastic. Let's take all of that. And over here, we just need redstone and glass. So redstone, of course, we have, and we can take it out of here. And then glass, we do have. I thought we didn't have any, but that's fine. Let's go ahead and request 52 glass. We'll take all of it. And then that should be enough to get us quite a few of these hardened integral components, way more than the 9 that we need. In fact, I think one of my dynamos might already have one in them. I'm not quite sure, but let's go ahead and just start right-clicking these into here. Fantastic. And just like that, we've managed to double every single dynamo from producing 40 RF per tick up to producing 80, which means that we have taken our power output from 360 up to 720 redstone flux per tick, which is very nice indeed, and hopefully means going forward we won't run into quite so many issues when accelerating machines like our advanced smelting factory. And hopefully it also gives us a little bit of headroom to start setting up machines for the next tier of automation, of course that being the improved mechanical essence. And of course we are now using things like our pipe pressurizer over here. I'm not quite sure how much power this uses to move a single item, but going forward, I do intend to use even more of the Pretty Pipes network and finally look at setting up some auto crafting with this to make our lives just a little bit easier going forward. For now, though, I'm going to go ahead and ramp up this episode of Mechanical Mastery there.